Penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
All right. Welcome back, Rebel Force Radio. Great to be with you. I just looked at the calendar, and I see we're like a little more than a week away from Halloween. I can't believe it. I've got to get my costume. I hope you all have your costumes picked out. We'd love to get pictures. You're out at a Halloween party this season. Send us your pictures. Show at rebelforceradio.com. And when I say send us your pictures, obviously, I mean send us your pictures of you and your family dressed up as Star Wars characters. What do you think? We're going to sit here and look at you in your Spider-Man PJs? No, we want you in Star Wars costumes. As a matter of fact, I am so happy. The other day, I'm flipping around on the Instagram, and I'm bombarded by ads, as we all are, and I saw an ad for a store brand, not a custom, not something that took some incredible cosplayer months to create. It's just a store-bought Jedi Luke costume. I've never seen that. I've that's been my favorite Luke Skywalker look my entire life, and I have never seen that before. Leave it to The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and that version of Luke Skywalker to finally make it into Halloween stores. Spirit Halloween across the United States and maybe the world has the Jedi Luke costume. So that's on the list. That I've got 3 that I'm considering. I've got a costume party I got to go to next week, and Jedi Luke. Don't tell anybody, but Jedi Luke is one of them. Anyway, we have a great show for you this week. Coming up, we've got some more details on Skeleton Crew. Yeah, that's the next big series that's going to be coming out on Disney Plus for Star Wars. So we'll be talking about that. Also, Gareth Edwards, the director of Rogue One, has finally sort of gone public, I guess, to sort of set the record straight about what really went down there on the set of Rogue One. There's been a lot of rumors, and we'll see what Gareth's version of events are. Also, that wonderful actress, Ariana Greenblatt from Ahsoka, played young Ahsoka. She's we got some quotes from her coming up here shortly about what it was like to step into the Leku of Ahsoka. So it's going to be a great show. Don't want to go anywhere, and that includes you. So stay right here, Rebel Force Radio. Thank you all very, very much. If you're new to the program, if you found us through our after shows, and introductions are in order, my name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. I'm stepping into the Leku, and I'm wearing Spider-Man pajamas. What do you think about that, Jedi Luke Swank? I want to see pictures of you as Jedi Luke. I think that would be cool. I think you'd look great as Jedi Luke. I don't get invited to Halloween costume parties because I freak out too much when people come up and start talking to me. Very good friends of mine, but I can't recognize who they are, so I freak out. And so they quit inviting me to the costume parties.
Oh, I bet there's lots of Rebel Force Radio listeners right now that would invite you to any of their Halloween costume festivities going on over the next couple of weeks.
Unlikely, but I appreciate the support, Jedi Luke Jason. See, that's what a Jedi Luke Jason does. He shows compassion of a Jedi. But me, usually Halloween is I sit on my porch and I wear my Chewbacca coat, the fur coat with the hood and the bandolier.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a gift from Mark Echo. I just sit there and wait for the kids to roll up on the porch. I give them a couple of Chewbacca growls. I throw them a bunch of candy, and off they go. But I want to see you as Jedi Luke. I really do.
I've narrowed it down to 3 this year, but I just thought it was so cool because I've always wanted a Jedi Luke costume. I thought I would have to go and have, one custom made.
Yes.
And I started thinking about, the store brand. They've obviously improved, Jim, since the days we were kids with the Ben Cooper and the plastic and the masks and all that. But I was thinking about Luke Skywalker, and I can't even think of, I think maybe I've seen a store-bought X-Wing Jedi Luke, or not Jedi Luke, but X-Wing Luke Skywalker costume, but I can't, I've never seen a Bespin Luke look. I don't even think I've seen Shorty Robe. That you
I don't think I have either.
Halloween store and buy. Darth Vader, Boba Fett, even the Emperor, all the prequel characters, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, they were all in the Halloween stores, but Classic Trilogy has been kind of underrepresented.
Well, the most popular Stormtrooper, of course, is always everywhere. Right. That is the most popular one. Because as a kid, you look at a Stormtrooper and all that armor, and you say, man, it would be cool to walk around in all that armor. Thus, you have costuming groups, like the 501st, etc. Because a lot of kids shared that dream. So Stormtrooper costumes, they sell. But where's Kitster? Where are my Kitster cosplayers? Have you ever... I don't see them at the conventions, much less Halloween.
Not only does there need to be a Kitster costumer out there, I think we need to get a bunch of them together and do one of those big stunts where we run around and do something. You got the ice cream man.
Yeah.
Now you got the guy from Andor.
Yeah.
No Way Out. Those guys.
Right.
Where's Kitster? We should run around saying it's never going to run.
Well, I think you just run around as a group and randomly stop and as a group point at something and go, "So wizard," and then you run off.
There you go. Yes. Something like that. The running of the Kitsters. Star Wars, the next Star Wars celebration. We need to have that.
Right. The running of the Kitsters. TM. Trademark. Trademark of Rebel Force Radio.
Yeah. So, don't steal that from us.
Yeah, please. Or if you're going to steal it, at least call us and let us know when it's going to happen so we can partake.
Yeah, we want to do that. What do we got here to start out the show? Oh, I have a note here that says that your big TV appearance is already you're in reruns now.
Oh,
Jimmy
yeah.
Mack, you're a rerun.
I am rerun. What's happening? I'm rerun. And so I was on MeTV Collector's Call a few years ago. That show with Lisa Whelchel from The Facts of Life. She was Blair. Yeah, she was the pretty one. The pretty one who was from a well-to-do family.
Yes.
And kind of snobby that way, I appeared on Collector's Call as their Star Wars expert a few years ago. We visited the home of Eric Pfeiffer, who lives in northern Illinois area, and his whole house is a Star Wars collection on display. So we walked through that, and I applied a bunch of price evaluations to certain items and stuff, and I researched this stuff. I felt like I knew what I was talking about. And it's been rerun a few times, and I got word that this Sunday, October 22nd, Collector's Call on MeTV will air at 5:30 p.m. Central. That would be 6:30 p.m. Eastern on MeTV. So check your local provider. Jason, what do we know about streaming options?
Let me tell you, I'm delighted because when you first started talking about this, I obviously went on the MeTV website. I looked at the lineup. It's right up my alley. It's got some of the best classic TV shows running. I mean, the stuff from the 60s and the 70s. You want to feel old? Go turn on Nick at Night. When I was growing up, Nick at Night was Mr. Ed and Leave It to Beaver. It's now Friends and Everybody Loves Raymond. I mean, that's Nick at Night now. So you go, well, where do I go to see all these great, Gunsmoke and the Munsters and all that stuff? A lot of that stuff is on MeTV, but it wasn't available if you didn't have it as part of your cable affiliate. But there is a streaming option through Friendly TV, and that's FRNDLY. Friendly, it's live TV, and they've got a package. So if you get some live TV channels as well, but you also get MeTV Plus, which puts all the MeTV shows on demand. which is great. So it's very, very cool. It's pretty affordable. I think it's $7-8 a month. Not too bad. But, you could dip in for a month, check out Jimmy Mac's appearance on Collector's Call and duck out,
Yeah.
But before we get to the clips, I've got something for speaking of collectors. I got something I think you might be interested in. This comes from Rebel Force Radio listener Brian Duckworth.
Brian.
But the real star in that family is his son, Declan. So Brian reached out to me and he said, are you looking for one of those Trapper Wolf Black Series helmets that were on super sale throughout Ollie's in the United States? And I personally am not, but I know somebody who was really looking for one, wanted to add it to his collection.
Yes.
Jimmy Mac. So guess what? Got it right here.
Oh, man. Come on. Come on.
Brian. Yeah, here it is. From Brian and his boy Declan. They're big Rebel Force Radio listeners.
Wow.
And Declan had, so here's the thing. It's not paid for. I have to pay for it by doing this for Declan.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jimmy Mac. It's Dave Filoni. Gonna give you my Trapper Wolf helmet. It's pretty cool. I know you're still mad because I gave Jason that awesome Death Star set with the vintage collection action figures.
Yeah.
You got a lame Plo Koon. But anyway, hopefully this makes up for it.
That is true.
So there you go. All right, that's for Declan.
Wow.
And we got the Trapper Wolf. So that's heading your way, Mac.
They give you that script?
No, I just made that up.
Oh, okay. I was like, how did they know all that?
No, that was me off the dome right there.
Because it was a true story. It was
apparently it is.
It was like 10 years ago. Me and Jason were in San Francisco, and we had a sit down with Filoni, and he marched out with gifts, and we were so touched. And he gave you a San Diego Comic-Con Hasbro action figure giveaway. It was this giant cardboard Death Star that was filled with action figures, including two really hard to find on the card, Salacious Crumb and the Mouse Droid. And I looked at that thing and my mouth was watering. And then Filoni hands me some like crummy Plo Koon action figure. I have it. I appreciated it and everything, but you go eBay that thing that Filoni gave you, it's probably $1,000 these days. Plo Koon action figures
it's worth more than that.
Oh, jeez. Plo Koon action figures like $30 to $40 at the garage sale. So, whatever. But he always liked you better.
It's worth more like $2,000 or $3,000. But
what was so funny?
It's not about the money.
What was so funny was we were running really late for our flight home. So we're running through the San Francisco airport, and Swank has this giant cardboard Death Star thing, and he was in front of me going so fast. I swear to God, Jason, that thing turned into a sail, and you were taking air as we were running toward the gate. It was, I swear to God, I was not seeing things. I'm like, oh, Swank just took air. He's like 3 meters off the ground right now. There he goes, flying. All right,
so I got some of these up here. Let's see what we got with 2350.
Wow,
2700.
Get that.
2800. I know. I feel terrible. I really do. But I've left instructions with my wife, Deborah, that if I go before you, I said, call Mac. He'll get a big U-Haul. He'll come out here. He'll drive it out. He'll get all my Star Wars stuff out of the house, and you won't have to deal with it. So who knows?
Deborah's already been in touch with me. She's just waiting for your next business trip.
Oh, my gosh. But anyway, okay, I digress. Thank you, Declan. Thank you, Brian. We've got the Trapper Wolf helmet for Jimmy Mac's collection, and that's why he's on
really
shows
nice.
like Collector's Call, because
I have the wolf tattooed on my shoulder.
Right.
And we were original members of Dave Filoni's Wolfpack. Look, I even have I got the plaque up on the wall.
You have the plaque within arm's reach. That's great. Mine's
right here in the studio.
In a box somewhere. Look at that. That is nice.
I have it right here, the Wolfpack. Yeah. The 104th Wolfpack.
We were the inaugural members.
We were. And then Steve Sansweet.
Yep.
And Bonnie Burton.
Yep.
And then Lucasfilm put the kibosh on the whole thing.
Let's blame Bonnie. Why not? You know, she was the last one.
She tanked the whole operation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, you know, that was kind of cool. And it says on the plaque, in appreciation of outstanding fandom in support of Star Wars. Jimmy Mack is hereby an honorary member of the 104th Wolf Pack. Supervising director Dave Filoni even signed it. That's the thing, patch collectors really are crazy about these patches. They're very rare, and it has the Wolfpack logo on it.
Yeah.
And Filoni told me that only 15 of them exist.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
I have one, you have one, Bonnie has one, Sansweet has one.
That's even
Dave
more rare.
has the rest.
That's even more rare than that San Diego Comic-Con exclusive vintage collection Death Star set.
Yeah, but you have both, and that's not fair. I only have one. And a crummy Plo Koon action figure. I mean, God.
And, you know, to make matters worse, it's even in a scale that Mac doesn't collect. He doesn't collect the 12-inch guys.
It's like a sideshow something or another. It's going to be eBayed someday from Dave Filoni's personal collection. I should have had him sign it or something at least.
Yeah, that's true. You know, you can always eBay that. This was Dave Filoni's. And we know that Plo Koon was one of his favorite characters in Star Wars. So it's...
Yeah, but I don't care about that sentiment. I wanted the big Death Star. But thank you, Brian and Declan, for thinking of me, because there's no Ollie's close by me. And I did actually ask Jason to go, because I've heard you mention Ollie's.
Yeah, and I did. I went out and I found some really great stuff for really cheap prices. So if you're a collector of Marvel Legends, Star Wars, get out to your Ollie's if you have one. You never know what you're going to find. I even found some things that were supposed to be Walmart exclusives, and it just gets into the whole Hasbro debate. But I went in and there were no helmets, and it was in the weekly flyer. So I went up to one of the clerks, and they said, "You just missed it. We put them all out." They put like a whole pyramid of them out the day before. They limited them to one per customer, and they were gone in less than a day. So I just missed it. And I was feeling really bummed about it because you don't often ask if I can pick something up for you, and I wasn't able to find it. And just out of the blue, Brian just instant messaged me, and we worked it all out. So
that's the
will get
will
that
of the
off
Force.
into the mail for you.
That's great. That's great. I expect to see it maybe sometime in the middle of next year. The way Jason mails things out. The sluggishness. All right. Hey, well, how about Collector's Call? MTV
Let's
Collector's
look at
Call.
it. Yeah.
Did you ever actually see this episode?
No, I was never able to. Well, yes, I think I did. Didn't you get a copy of it somehow? Didn't you?
Yeah, but I don't think I ever digitized. I can't remember. I feel
like
because I was looking for it in my files and I didn't find it.
Okay,
so
maybe I have it. But now that I'm a subscriber to Friendly and I've got MeTV Plus, I'm going to be looking it up.
Yeah. So I do have a version of it here that you can take a peek at, and so can our RFR All Access members who are watching this video right now. Hello. Let's just roll the tape.
Let's do it. All right.
Today I'm visiting Star Wars superfan Eric Pfeiffer, who's turned his entire home into a galaxy far, far away. I've brought along Jimmy Mack, another prominent Star Wars collector,
I love you're the expert.
and the host of Rebel Force Radio.
I first started collecting in 1977, and I still have every item I ever purchased. And it's followed me everywhere I've gone my whole life.
Jimmy will put a price on Eric's collection. He's also managed to find a Star Wars collectible Eric doesn't have, and will attempt to make a trade for one of Eric's treasures. Will he succeed? In the end, it's the collector's call.
So that's the intro to the show.
I love it.
Yeah. So we walk through Eric's house, and the point of it is that various items get presented to me, and Eric reveals how much he paid for it, and then I reveal what it should be worth on the collector's market, using my expertise, of course.
Of course, yes.
And so the item, gosh, I don't remember what this next item is. So let's just take a listen to the clip here, and we'll see what is the next item up for bid.
What is this cool looking thing?
This is a convention exclusive. This was from Comic-Con in 2012.
Convention exclusives, especially from San Diego Comic-Con, very desirable on the collector's market. Very hard to get.
And it is a carbon freezing chamber on the top.
Why, of course.
Yep. And we have something super special inside here. Jar Jar Binks in carbonite.
Why?
Yeah, a lot of people like to make Jar Jar the punchline of their jokes.
Poor Jar Jar.
Freezing that character in carbonite is a pretty funny joke, if you ask me.
How much did you pay for it?
Just under $100.
That seems like a good deal. What do you think?
I think that's a great deal because I've seen the figure alone go for $250. It's only available at San Diego Comic-Con, one time only. The packaging's in good shape, too. I've seen many damaged because, of course, when you're trying to travel from a convention with a large piece like this with all the clear plastic on it, it easily gets damaged. I would place this entire thing around $350, $400.
I got to ask, was this, were you channeling Steve Sansweet a little bit here? Because
Oh, my God, yes.
Do this on TV and at conventions and in magazines and all that. Yeah.
Yes, I've had the opportunity to be surrounded by Star Wars collectibles and have them be the topic of conversation while on camera. And every time I do it, I'm channeling Stephen J. Sansweet. You damn well better believe it. So I've told them as much as well. So, okay, collector's call number 3. This is a very impressive item from Eric's collection, and I don't know any other collector who owns something like this.
This is a limited edition piece.
Star Wars expert Jimmy is valuing the vast collection of Star Wars mega fan Eric. And he's brought an additional item to trade that Eric might not be able to resist. But first, there's a bit more to see. I can honestly say this is a first.
Welcome to the outdoors.
Yes, the great outdoors, because there is a billboard behind us. How did you get that?
This billboard was actually on the interstate, and my friend's a photographer, and he did a job, and instead of getting paid in cash, he got paid with this billboard.
Do you display it for your PfeifferCon?
I do, yeah, actually in the same spot that it is right now.
A billboard's just not seen in any collections. And it's not often seen in Eric's collection either because he can't keep it out on permanent display. It's so huge.
How much do you pay for it?
$200.
So if there's somebody else down the road, do you think you can get $200 back?
It's really hard for me to place a value on this. What I do like about it, it has some very popular characters on it. R2-D2, Yoda, Darth Maul, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's from a re-release and doesn't represent one of their big box office releases. However, it's a billboard.
It's a big billboard.
The closest I ever see to something like this on the collector's market are movie theater banners. Judging on the value of those, I would say $2,500 to $3,000. But good luck getting someone to pay you that money because it is so hard to display.
Yeah, but if I'm like you, I'm hearing $2,500,
yeah, I'm
right?
cool with that. Yeah, great deal.
I'm going to call it a success.
You know, as you mentioned, Jim, it wasn't from one of the big releases. It was from the 3D release, which, you know, it doesn't even really rank up there with the special editions that even come close. But it is a bit of a novelty now when you look back and think of those 3D releases.
Yes. Just, you know, like I said, for a collector and a collector's item, it's so huge, virtually impossible to display with any regularity, and difficult to even store. It takes up a lot of room when it gets all folded down even. So
yeah, I was thinking like, oh, well, you know, if you have the right property, you could actually put up a something to, but with the weather, the elements, it would get destroyed. I mean, one of the reasons it's in such good shape probably is because it wasn't up very long.
Right.
It didn't last long in the theaters, that
it sure didn't.
Re-release.
It sure didn't.
Wow.
So that's Collector's Call. Tune in Sunday, October 22nd, 5:30 p.m. Central, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific on MeTV. Check your local listings, as they say. Or take advantage of some of Jason's friendly TV streaming options. That's FRNDLY.
Live
TV.
Friendly Live TV. If you look that up, if you have an Apple TV, you just look that up in the App Store. I'm sure it's in all the app stores, Friendly Live TV. And they have a whole suite of channels, Hallmark channel, a lot of family-friendly stuff. Hallmark channels, things like that. And MeTV Plus is one. MeTV and MeTV Plus are in their roster. So, yeah.
Outstanding. So tune in. Turn on, drop out.
Speaking of family-friendly, I don't know how family-friendly this is going to be. We got to tell you about the big the big battle coming up here on Rebel Force Radio soon. If you've been listening to our after shows, going back to, I think, Bad Batch, we have a young man who calls every week when we do the after shows, Blake. And Blake always has a very interesting take on whatever episode we're talking about. He was wise beyond his years. He's my son's age, 11, and he just always amazes us. He just pulls these little gems out of it, and so we've given him his own segment on those after shows, Blake's Take, and he got called out by one of our own, by FJ DeSanto of all people.
Well, and I was really struggling to wrap my head around what is this? Why a rivalry between Kid Jake and FJ? And I think it's just FJ resents others getting more attention than him.
I think you're right. I think
there's just a preciousness to Kid Blake that FJ cannot really duplicate. What happened? How did Blake get word?
Well, it was we had FJ on the show. And we were breaking down Ahsoka. I think this is we were around episode 5, episode 6 of Ahsoka. We had FJ on the show, and we're breaking it all down with him. And just all of a sudden, he's like, I challenge Blake. Challenge Blake.
I'm not coming back until I fight Blake.
And we're like, whoa, what's going on? We didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah. We still aren't really sure, but we're just running with a trivia contest, I think.
Right.
But
in lieu of a cage match.
So Kid Blake got wind of this, and FJ, he threw down the challenge, and Kid Blake responded.
FJ, you think you know Star Wars. Well, I've got news for you. I've been in this battle since I was 4 years old. I've watched the entire Clone Wars series 3 times, and I know the opening scroll to every Star Wars movie. You might be a potty mouth prophet, but I've got the power of the Force on my side, or at least the force of 1 million midichlorians in my imagination. So, FJ DeSanto, don't underestimate my power. Are you ready to face the wrath of a pint-sized Padawan? One shall stand, one shall fall. FJ, you have twice the pride and double the fall. And when I win, I will ask for an autograph on my action figure.
So there you heard it. Blake throwing down to FJ. And it just escalated from there, because now all of a sudden FJ's getting it, coming after Blake with his own rebuttal. So here we go. This is FJ's. This is his Hulkamania speech.
Looking very sick.
Blake, you've made a grave mistake provoking the potty mouth prophet. And with that, despite the fact that you're truly adorable and hilarious, and how much I loved your video, I must accept your challenge. We will duel, however you see fit, however deemed responsible for the keepers of the Force and Rebel Force Radio. You and I will challenge each other to trivia, to the depths of our minds and souls, despite the fact that you have a midichlorian count of a gazillion, and I'm just a simple man making his way in the galaxy. I accept your challenge, and I'll see you soon.
Hey, they're looking for someone to replace Ray Stevenson as Baylan Skoll. Looking at FJ here, he's almost there. As long as he can be, shrouded, from the eyes up. You just keep the great beard going on.
Oh yeah, I think we found our man. So it's the Potty Mouth Prophet and the Pint-Sized Padawan.
Yeah,
and we'll square off here on Rebel Force Radio. So we are working with not only FJ and Blake, but we're also working with our trivia master who is going to oversee the competition. He's a guy well known to RFR listeners and to trivia enthusiasts who stumble upon his trivia contests at various conventions. It's Kevin Lyle. So Kevin will be joining us for this. So we are currently working on getting everyone's schedules squared away. We do have a date penciled in for early in November. So stay tuned for the Pint-Sized Padawan versus the Potty Mouth Prophet. And it should be a doozy. Stay tuned.
I think some in our talented Rebel Force Radio listenership might be able to put together some sort of poster. I see a poster of these two titans, face to face, a la WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan versus that big nasty giant at the Pontiac Silverdome. I could see this happening. So send it to us. Show at rebelforceradio.com. We need the show art. So that'll be great for that week. If you wouldn't mind.
We will accept submissions. So, yeah, that's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to it, and it should be a showdown for the ages.
Yes. Hey, before we get into news, Jim, you just got back from a trip out to Rancho Obi-Wan, one that I believe was a little bittersweet, but nonetheless, a trip out there, see some old friends, and pay some respects and all of that. And you did get to spend some time with Mr. Stephen, the aforementioned Stephen J. Sansweet. What can you tell us about your journey out to the Mecca of Star Wars?
It most certainly is the Mecca. And I get smacked upside Mecca head every time I go over there and see all the amazing Star Wars treasures they have at Rancho Obi-Wan, which is home to the world's largest Star Wars memorabilia collection, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, and the collection of Stephen J. Sansweet, who most Star Wars fans know through all the books he's written over the years and his 2 decades in the office of Director of Fan Relations for Lucasfilm, a position I believe no longer exists. Because how could it? There's only one Steve Sansweet, and he's the world's greatest, and he's up there in Petaluma, California with Rancho Obi-Wan, and if you want a tour of it, you can become a member. Just go to ranchoobiwan.org, and tours for 2024 will soon be made available. They're squaring away schedules now for 2024 tours, and you have to see it if you're a Star Wars fan. Now, the reason I was out there, as Jason said, was bittersweet because we were paying tribute to Rancho Obi-Wan Stu Levy. Stu was the husband of Rancho Obi-Wan CEO and President Ann Newman. Stu lived on the property, and he loved it there. He loved Star Wars fans. Even though he wasn't necessarily a big Star Wars fan himself, he certainly embraced Star Wars and loved everything about Rancho Obi-Wan. And he was just a great guy, and I was super tight to him. So we had a Stubby-Q with about 100 people there, and I got up and spoke, and there were a lot of other friends of Stu's who got up and said a few words, and Anne made her amazing Texas brisket, which was just mouth-watering, and I got to hang out with Steve and a lot of members of the Rancho Obi-Wan crew, and I even did a breeze through of the museum. They were doing quick walkthroughs, courtesy of museum docents and tour guides Dwayne Smith and Mark Morita, and those guys are the greatest, and they do a lion's share of they handle a lion's share of the tours at Rancho Obi-Wan. So we went through it, spent about an hour in there, and it was a very Stu-centric tour. We were being shown some of Stu's favorite items. But here's the big news about Rancho Obi-Wan that you might not know, is that there is a new exhibit there. It's a Lego exhibit.
Oh, wow.
They created space for an exhibit of rare Star Wars Lego. And it's a big exhibit. It's worth checking out. And it's brand new. Very few have seen it. And I was impressed to set eyes upon it.
That's going to be a real crossover hit with all of the big Lego fans. So that's a great move by Rancho. Awesome.
Yeah. So Steve is super excited about it. I got to ride around with Steve in his Nissan Rogue One edition. He still has it. It's running great. It looks great. What a great ride that is. And yeah, we were riding around Petaluma in that bad boy. Has wheels, unfortunately, which kind of takes away a little bit.
Right.
The whole Star Wars experience, but for the most part, a smooth ride. And Steve has kept his up to, with the collector's care. So his is still in great shape. So that was our weekend for Stu. It was a lot of fun. It was, I got to meet a lot of old friends of Stu's and friends of his from New York. So I felt like even those Stu's not around anymore to hang. I can't believe I can't hang out with him anymore, but it's not going to happen. And I still feel like I got to know him better through his great friends. So
yeah.
I just want to thank Ann Newman and Steve Sansweet and everyone at Rancho Obi-Wan for making the weekend great.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message?
Message, Arthur, the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Hey, Jimmy and Jason, Steve Dubray, Patreon. I was just listening to the catch-up super chats from the episode 8 roundtable, and a question came up of, why is Anakin Skywalker looking over these two clowns when he's got his son out there not doing great? What if the Force-Ghost connection only comes from attachment in real life? Qui-Gon was able to connect Yoda and Obi-Wan because he had a close living attachment to them. Obi-Wan connected to Luke because he had spent years and years and years in close proximity, focused on him. He was attached to the boy. And then Luke appearing to Kylo. And I mean, I guess that doesn't work. He wasn't dead yet. You get my point, though. You get my point. All right. Bye.
Get the point, Steve. So what Steve's responding to some of the post-show criticism of Anakin, seeing Anakin appearing to Ahsoka Tano as a Force ghost, and even if you don't buy into the whole idea that the world between worlds Anakin is a Force ghost, there's very little, if any, debate about the Anakin that we see at the end of the series being a Force ghost because he had the blue glowy. So we know that Anakin at the end of this series is looking over Ahsoka. Why is he not looking over Luke? Why has he not appeared to Luke? And Steve is saying, well, maybe it's about attachment. Maybe there has to be a real life connection between the and I think what Steve's saying is a Force connection between a master and an apprentice, which Luke was not an apprentice of Anakin Skywalker. He was a blood relative. He was his son, very, very close. So I think that's sort of Steve's take. I don't know that it needs explanation, though I think Steve is offering a perfectly reasonable idea. To me, there's no reason to assume that Anakin is not appearing to Luke Skywalker. We just haven't seen it yet. So the fact that Lucasfilm and Dave Filoni is choosing to tell this story right here, right now about Ahsoka Tano, and it lends itself to an appearance by Anakin Skywalker, I don't think that it means that he is not appearing to Luke.
Well, can't a Force spirit be in two places at the same time? I mean,
I would think so.
Isn't that that's kind of one of the bonuses, I think.
Right. The bad news is you're dead. The good news is you can be a lot of different places.
All right. We know Qui-Gon Jinn was the first to break through and reveal, he was the first, according to all the lore. I mean, there are ancient examples throughout expanded universe and stuff, but to the modern Jedi, Yoda and the gang, they had no idea that a Jedi Force spirit can suddenly start communicating with you. And then you could learn how to communicate with it. So how does that happen? I like the idea that there's a bond made through the living force, which carries on into the cosmic force or whatever. But also something to keep in mind is the weirdness of the galaxy they're in and the planet they're on, Peridea.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you say Peridia?
I say Peridea.
I like Peridea too. It sounds more exotic. But we know that there's some sort of power there.
Yeah.
It certainly has been hinted at very heavily. And then in the last scene, we see the image of the father and the son from Mortis there carved into the mountain. So it made me think of Mortis in that scene when Qui-Gon appears to Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan says, how is this happening? Why are you here? He says, I'm here because you're here. That's what Qui-Gon says. I'm here because you're here.
Right.
And Obi-Wan says, well, what is this place? What is this all about? Qui-Gon says, it's a place unlike any other place. It's a conduit through which the entire force of the universe flows. So if that's what Mortis is all about and can generate the force spirit, then maybe that's similar to what's going on here on this planet in the Ahsoka show. Because Mortis, which the spirit of Qui-Gon in that episode, when it's the first of the Mortis trilogy, and Qui-Gon appears to Ben, or Obi-Wan. Let's not confuse things by saying Ben. To Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And so, he said, I'm here because you're here. This place is a conduit through which all the force in the universe flows. It's both an amplifier and a magnet. This is interesting stuff, and I think a lot of this stuff can be applied to Peridea as well. So that's my take on it.
It's like it attracts, it's a magnet, so it attracts, and then it's an amplifier, so it broadcasts. So it attracts and it broadcasts the force.
Yeah.
There's so much to it. I just still can't believe that Filoni laid both on us in the same season. I still can't believe that we're dealing with the world between worlds as well as the Force Ghost of Anakin Skywalker and all of that. I know there's a popular meme. It's like, how do you want Anakin Skywalker to appear in your show? A Force ghost, in the world between worlds, or in a flashback? And it's like Filoni says, how about all three? So, I mean, Filoni really hit us up with a lot of Anakin Skywalker.
If he really wanted to blow us away, it could have been Sebastian Shaw as the ghost.
I'm really going to blow your minds.
Yes, I'm going to pull some multiverse. No, please spare us of the multiverse.
Yeah. Well, the Force Ghost conversation continues here a little bit with Alex.
Chut, Jason. Chut, Jimmy. This is Alex from Mundelein, Illinois, part of the Patreon. I wanted to get your take on something regarding Ahsoka and Anakin appearing in the world between worlds. I know it's been theorized that maybe he was more of a memory in Ahsoka's head and not actually Anakin's Force spirit, but it got me thinking about Force spirits in general. And I apologize if this has been brought up in the past already, but is it possible that the world between worlds is where Force spirits exist? For me, at least, it would explain how Obi-Wan and Yoda's spirits always seem to show up at the right moment when Luke needs them. Maybe they're able to see all moments in time, similar to what we saw Ezra do in Rebels when he saved Ahsoka, and they only present themselves at the moments where they know they're needed. And that would also maybe explain how Ahsoka didn't drown in the water if Anakin was the one who pulled her into the world between worlds at the exact right moment. The other thing I wanted to say, completely unrelated, is thank you to Jimmy Mack for introducing me to the Chicago Toy Show in Kane County. I remember him talking about it on the show a long time ago. I went to check it out. And with the next toy show coming up this weekend, it reminded me that I have him to thank for all the times I've gone to it since and had an awesome time. So that's it. Thanks again, and may the Force be with you.
Oh, that's nice. Hey, listen, it's great to thank me. Just don't blame me for your empty bank account. But it is a great toy show, and I do recommend it. The next one is happening at the Kane County Fairgrounds on Sunday, October 22nd, 2023.
Oh, so, that's this weekend.
Oh my God, that's this weekend. No, I can't go. So have fun. Have fun, and I hope you find many treasures there.
So the idea, Jim, that the world between worlds could be a hangout space for Force ghosts when they're not appearing to the living.
It's like a cafe.
Right. Yeah, it's Starbucks. Yeah. It's between home and work. Mm-hmm. That's the world between worlds. It's why they call it the world between worlds. Okay, so much has been made of the look of Anakin as he appeared in the world between worlds. He doesn't have the blue glowy outline, whereas at the end of Ahsoka in Part 8, he does have the blue glowy outline. So there's been talk about, well, that wasn't Force Ghost Anakin. It's not the same thing as what you see in the world between worlds. And I'm still not willing to give up on that. And what I mean is, I don't want to take away the wisdom that is imparted to Ahsoka from Anakin by saying that it all happens inside Ahsoka's head. There's something that doesn't fit for me there, but I will concede that visually, Filoni has created a difference. He's created a dichotomy between there's the Anakin that we see right here on the screen in the world between worlds, and then the glowy Anakin in the at the end. I just don't know if it matters to me because it's all the same character. I don't think that there's any limitation or handicap to the knowledge that is imparted to Ahsoka in Episode 5 versus anything that might come later when he's outlined with a blue glowy. So you could also say, like what Alex is saying, is maybe the world between worlds is where these Force ghosts sort of collect when they're not out there presenting themselves to the living, and they're not going to appear as ghosts in the world between worlds, because in the world between worlds, they're not ghosts. They're only ghosts in the world of the living.
Okay, I have all kind of things to say about this. My first question is, does one Force ghost see the blue glowy on another Force ghost? Or is that only visual to the living who are receiving a vision of a Force ghost?
I think it's a visual cue to the living that what you're seeing.
So when they're hanging out, as we say, they're hanging out in the world between worlds, having a hang.
Yeah.
Do they see the blue glow on each other? I say no.
No. I mean, there's no evidence to suggest that they do.
And it's very important to remember that Ahsoka is dead. In this, Balin's skull killed her. And to say you'd like to think, well, it's really Anakin. It's not just all going on up in Ahsoka's head. It's beyond all of that. It's a Force vision that has taken her soul, let's just say, and placed it into the world between worlds as she is tumbling through the afterlife now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a choice for her, though. And it's presented to her via her old master, Anakin Skywalker, in a place where time stands still. There is no time.
Right.
So this is like essentially the soul of Anakin visiting the soul of Ahsoka in the world between worlds.
I'm down with that.
He is presenting her a lesson. And we see the soul of Anakin being presented because, like I said, time stands still. There is no time in the world between worlds.
Right.
So every time Anakin appears to Ahsoka, it's plucked. The soul of Anakin is plucked out of a different place in time. That's why you see him slipping to the dark side. You see him occasionally appear as Darth Vader for a brief second.
Mm-hmm.
So it is Anakin, but it isn't like, it's not just like another day in the life for the spirit of Anakin. It's much different than that. It's his essential soul being presented to the essential soul of Ahsoka as she's sort of in this this purgatory, this holding pattern, this she's not quite committed to death yet. So Ahsoka is there. She's sort of in between life and death. Now, what I like about all of this is the fact that her body isn't able to be found in the ocean until she makes the choice to live. Then all of a sudden, the body shows up on chopper scanners. Mm-hmm. But again, that could just be the Force at work.
Right.
I don't think that she was actually physically plucked out of existence and placed into the world between worlds, but maybe she was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, I think
that's sort of how I look at it.
I know. I dig that. What was bothering me about when we discussed this before was there wasn't as much talk about her having crossing over into death, so that this was some sort of, I was interpreting what others were saying, including you, as this was some sort of hallucination that she had, that that there was some sort of maybe latent or subliminal message of or memory that she was sort of uncorking, that in other words, that she was the one that was figuring this out, and that Anakin was just a manifestation of that thought process. That I didn't like. I needed to believe that there was action by the spirit, he doesn't have to be a ghost, but the spirit of Anakin Skywalker. And I think we're in agreement that there was action on the part of Anakin Skywalker in whatever form to bring about this lesson in Ahsoka.
Yeah, we just need a little bit of time to live with the Ahsoka series to continue to analyze it and watch it 500. Believe me, when I've seen it 500 times, I'm going to have some real stuff to say, man. But I've seen it like 5 times at this point. The more you live with it, the more you can look at it and break it all down and make your own sense of it. And that's how I see it. It's not just a hallucination. It's not like just in her head. Let's just say that. It is in her head, but it's not just in her head.
Right.
Because she's being transported through the Force to the world between worlds to have reunions with her former master. The relationship, which is kind of make or break for Ahsoka, on both sides of the coin.
Well, what do you think about Alex's idea that the world between worlds represents, we can say it's a cafe, but I mean, it represents a place where the Force is. It represents a place where those who have passed on into the nether world of the Force, as Yoda calls it, are able to sort of watch and observe various timelines in periods of time. Is that, for example, how Qui-Gon is able to see Anakin's Massacre of the Tusken Camp in Episode 2 of Attack of the Clones? Anakin, no! Is he observing that from the world between worlds?
Well, we always, think of heaven as a place where grandma goes and she watches out over you for the rest of your life and acts as something of a guardian angel and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think, relationship with Force ghosts probably have the same sort of symmetry and everything. So, you can restrict yourself as much as you want, or you can blow the box wide open and come up with any sort of analysis you want of something like that. And sure.
All right. Well, I like Alex's thinking. So thanks for the call, Alex. Got one more here that I think is fun to talk about.
Hey, fellas. How's it going? I enjoyed watching the new Ahsoka series with you guys. Listen to all the after shows, not always live, young children and whatnot. But I was thinking a lot about where it sets up for Filoni's movie, right? The big come-together crossover film with Thrawn being the villain, and what could be the stakes, right? Like that call for a movie, not a series. And I was thinking about the sequel trilogy, and I know the New Republic had been moved to, I believe it was called like Hossian Prime, and that was destroyed in The Force Awakens. is there any reference to Coruscant in the sequel trilogy that I'm not remembering? And I ask that because I wonder, with what we've seen of the New Republic government setup and how they're on Coruscant here in the Filoni-verse or the Favreau-verse or the Mando-verse, I wonder if we might see the demise of Coruscant. Maybe not like Alderaan style or Hacian Prime style, but maybe like in the style of Mandalore or Kamino. Do you guys remember anything? Is there any direct reference to Coruscant existing in the sequel trilogy? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Jim, I did a little bit of research, and I can find no record of the word Coruscant in the sequel trilogy.
No, none whatsoever.
So no reference. I did some additional research just to see what Expanded Universe might have to say about Coruscant. And there does appear to be a gap. And by gap, I mean there is story, there is lore that shows that there was a concerted choice to not make Coruscant the home of the New Republic after the fall of the Empire. There was all kinds of things going on. I mean, Coruscant was one of the last strongholds of the Empire. Masamita was involved, and he ended up getting some sort of kind of ceremonial role in the New Republic, but it was ugly from what I've read. But there really isn't much action that happens on Coruscant after the fall of the Empire, to be fair. So what Curtis is saying, by the way, he called back and said, "Oh, by the way, guys, my name is Curtis." So I know it's Curtis that left the voicemail. What he's saying is, could this be a big front in the big showdown between Thrawn and the New Republic? Could Coruscant sort of be ground zero, and we could find out the fate of Coruscant, and maybe why it doesn't play into the events of the sequel trilogy?
It could be, because in the New Republic era, they've certainly been planting a lot of seeds, letting us know that there are still Imperial sympathizers out there, and some of them might have high-ranking New Republic positions. So maybe that comes into play. I know that J.J. Abrams had proposed blowing up Coruscant for The Force Awakens. And
oh, really?
There was pushback from Lucasfilm on that. That's why they went with the other system.
Ah, okay. Hosnian Prime.
Right. But JJ believed, if it was Coruscant, then it just raises the stakes on all the drama. Because we're familiar.
Abrams? He had to blow up Vulcan first, and now in Star Wars, he wants to blow up Coruscant. What's next with J.J. Abrams? Krypton?
He's a lot of fun to be around on the 4th of July. That I know. Are you going to JJ's? He's got a cookout and the most awesome fireworks show. He's going to blow up the biggest watermelon you've ever seen. You ever be around that when they blow up the watermelon? One time I was standing too close. I took Rind right to the face.
Rind to the face. Well,
That's going to be the name of my autobiography, Rind to the Face.
A Rind to the Face.
And other true stories.
All right. I would love to see Coruscant be a big setting in the Filoni film, or somewhere in this whole Filoni verse. I think that would be cool. I think it'd be really cool. And it's really smart thinking of Curtis. I hadn't really thought of Coruscant until I got his voicemail. I didn't even put any thought to the fact that Coruscant wasn't mentioned in the sequel trilogy.
No mention of it whatsoever, which I found kind of head-scratching myself. But I thought, they just wanted to keep Coruscant around, just blow up that other Hacian Prime system, and big deal, who cares? But, I think there might be something to what he's saying. So that was a great collection of voicemail, and it helps us unpack Ahsoka. Do you feel better now?
I do.
World between worlds.
I got it. I'm not lying. I was really bummed that you and I didn't see eye to eye on that Anakin thing, and then we had Kyle on, and Kyle was like on Team Mac, and I was really feeling deflated because I took so much. I don't know. I just got a really cool spiritual connection to that whole thing, and I'm like, gosh, these two guys, I think so much of their opinions and they're just not seeing what I'm seeing. But I think it's just the words we were using, word choice and all of that. And it doesn't take away from what I was feeling in that moment. Yeah, great voicemail, 708-320-1737. That's the voicemail line. That's 708-320-1RFR. So please leave us voicemail. We love to have them, and we love to hear from you. So, please dial us up. And if you need more Rebel Force Radio in your life, one of the best ways to do it is to head over to RFR on Patreon. The party never stops. In fact, Jim, I'm seeing on our official Rebel Force Radio Facebook group, people are kind of moaning, going, oh, man, I got really used to 2 shows a week. Now I got to get used to just 1 show. But it's not just 1 show if you're following us on and supporting us on Patreon.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. So we always are releasing new shows, new content, fun things. We did a giveaway there last week. We gave away Kyle Newman's new book, D&D Lore and Legends, Dungeons and Dragons. There, I'll give it full credit. Dungeons and Dragons, Lore and Legends. We had this week alone on RFR on Patreon, we have RFR RPG bonus. I was away for the weekend at Rancho Obi-Wan, so Matt Rashid and Tyler Page got together to upgrade Grando, whatever that means. So
I like that someone finally made you a podcast to listen to that you didn't have to produce. Isn't that nice?
Right. And then, of course, our secret McDonald's Star Wars Happy Meal toy concepts from 1997 has been released, and you can see the full video on YouTube. And that's all of the visuals to go with those
and
wacky
people seem
toys.
to be digging that. That was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, people are having a lot of fun with that. Also this week on Patreon, RFR Q&A with Joe Dallas. There's just something special when Joe Dallas stops by because he's always got games and top 10 lists and all sort of fun things. And naturally, we talk very heavily about Ahsoka. And Joe presents us with top 10 things Purgles and real Earth eels and whales have in common, maybe. So that's his top 10 list. You can see he gets out there sometimes, Joe Dallas, but
those jazz musicians. Jeez,
exactly. Exactly. And Joe is one of Florida's finest jazz musicians too. So we always love when Joe stops by because he sure has a lot of fun, and we have a lot of fun on RFR on Patreon. Get in on the fun yourself. Get ad-free episodes of Rebel Force Radio, bonus podcasts, full show video, the opportunity to host an episode of RFR Q&A yourself, and so much more. Giveaways, perks, hangouts, you name it. It happens. RFR on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Join today. Patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
This is Carrie Fisher.
Hey, Jake Lloyd here.
Hello, this is Warwick Davis, and you're listening to Rebel Force Radio.
Now this is podcasting.
This is Anthony Daniels, and they asked me to throw in an ad-lib, but they didn't throw in any money, so I'm not going to throw in anything else. Goodbye.
Hey, it's James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I must tell you, the source for the Force is Rebel Force Radio, your source for the Force.
Hey, it's Mark Hamill, that Skywalker guy from those space movies.
Rebel Force Radio, what an unfortunate moniker.
Force yourself to listen.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news. Come closer, I have good news.
Yes, we have good news. Well, we're always looking forward here on Rebel Force Radio, and we may have just finished up Ahsoka, but we're probably, I don't know, I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 6 months away from seeing the premiere of Skeleton Crew. Now, there's not been an official announcement, but that copyright, what was it? The copyright registration that we talked about a couple weeks ago about Skeleton Crew gave us some new tidbits, and one of them is that even though it was talked about being released at the end of 2023, according to the copyright registration, it's looking like 2024. We all suspect early, like Q1 2024, so maybe right after the holidays. And Jim, you've long been saying that the holdup is not production, but promotion. If they put the show out now, much like Ahsoka, they're not going to have a whole lot of talent dropping by the Jimmy Fallon shows and the Jimmy Kimmel shows. So especially when you've got somebody like a Jude Law that is a bona fide movie star, you want him out there on the circuit. So that seems to be the holdup once they get the Screen Actors Guild. From what I understand, the Writers Guild, that's put to bed, though there is still solidarity between the writers and the actors, and they're trying to support their fellow actors, making sure they get the deal that they want. Blah, 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 blah. We're still not through all of this. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. But we are looking forward to Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
And we've noted a few breadcrumbs dropped in front of us over the last year, so we're gonna hunt them down and check them out. And for those who don't know, Skeleton Crew is a new upcoming Disney Plus series, Star Wars Skeleton Crew, created by John Watts, the guy who's made the most recent Spider-Man films with Tom Holland. And Christopher Ford is the other co-creator. The show is a coming-of-age story in the vein of 80s Amblin films.
Oh, it's like E.T. and Goonies and yeah.
Is Stand By Me one of them?
I would. It wasn't Amblin, but it's up there with those coming-of-age films from the 80s. Big influence on me as a kid.
It's going to follow a group of kids trying to get home while lost in the galaxy with the help of a Jedi played by Jude Law.
Did you almost say Lost in Space?
I did.
Will Robinson? Yes.
Danger. Yeah.
But I do love the Lost in Space idea. And, of course, Jim, every time we see this synopsis and we think about these kids being lost in another galaxy, we can't help but think that Star Wars just established another galaxy in Ahsoka. And is there a connection there? I think so. A lot of people are guessing that that's a connection.
Yeah. Well, we're sniffing around for hints. And so I dug up, I'm going to try to dig up whatever interviews I can find with the creatives from this show. And I found some interviews on Entertainment Weekly with co-creator Christopher Ford. And he describes what the tone of the show is going to be all about.
Skeleton Crew's tone is an adventure. We wanted it to be a lot of fun. But of course, along with adventure comes the downside of it, which is danger. And when the kids are in danger, it's extra fraught. So, we played with that, but overall wanted it to be just a fun adventure.
Kids raise the stakes, man. I mean, when you have kids in an adventure series, I mean, just think about, when you were watching Revenge of the Sith for the first time, Master Skywalker, what are we going to do? You look down, a little cherub, little, pudgy-faced kid, and you knew what was about to happen. He got a saber through the gut, most likely. Or he got his head chopped off. Who knows what happened to that little guy? But, Chris Ford is absolutely right. You put these kids in, you raise the stakes, the danger stakes.
So we have more from Christopher Ford. By the way, he is the producer on the Spider-Man films. So he works with John Watts, and they're moving over to Star Wars now from Spider-Man. I don't know. I think they're going to continue to do the Spider-Man thing, but they're the showrunners here for the Skeleton Crew show.
Yeah.
And he answers the question, we're talking about these kids in the show. Well, what's up with this show? Is it targeted towards kids? And he responds,
I wouldn't say target. Hopefully it can be for all ages kind of a thing. I mean, when we told Kathy Kennedy about that we wanted to go for that kind of Amblin tone, which she, perfected over the years, what she would say is that they never thought of those as movies for kids. They just happen to be about kids, a story of a kid going on an adventure. So it could be for anyone. Yeah.
I mean, think about E.T. Is E.T. a kid's movie? I mean, kids love it. But it's not a kid's movie. It just happens to be kids see themselves in the movie and they relate to the characters, just like Goonies. I still love it as a 46-year-old. And
that's, family programming.
Yeah.
It's not kiddie stuff so much, but something the whole family could enjoy.
Right.
So other Amblin movies are Batteries Not Included.
Oh, yes.
Harry and the Hendersons.
Great.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, is there a bad one here?
Kids, though.
Fantastic.
Back to the Future.
Oh, Back to the Future.
An American Tail. That's animated, but you know.
Yeah. Now we're getting into the Don Bluth animation side of things. Yeah.
Right. So just to refresh people what Amblin is all about. Because I had to refresh myself, you know. I mean, they take it for granted. We all know everything about Hollywood studios.
Right.
It's like, come on, man.
Right.
Just say it's like a Goonies.
It's like Goonies. Well, you know, people, Lost in Space was, you know, Goonies meets, sorry, I didn't mean Lost in Space. Stranger Things is like Goonies meets Stand By Me meets Alien. You know, it was all mashed up. This is sort of like, I've heard this mentioned too, which is like Star Wars meets Stranger Things. So you take that stew of all that 80s coming of age stuff and throw it into the blender with Star Wars. Throw a Jedi in there, Jude Law.
So we know we're going to have kids and we're going to have Jude Law. But the question is asked of Christopher Ford, and you'll also hear Jude Law in this clip as well. But they're answering the question, what about what's going on in the Star Wars universe at the same time this show is happening? Will we see other Star Wars characters, maybe from the Mandoverse, show up in here? Here's what Chris Ford has to say.
There may or may not be some crossovers.
What's that era called? Interstate? No.
Oh yeah. Well, what's the official name?
It's a 30-year gap. Right?
Well, it's the New Republic era. The New Republic. Right. Yeah. You know, for us, it was a great era because as much as the New Republic is trying to bring things back, it's a kind of lawless, wild time. So there's kind of a lot of danger. If we had said it earlier, the kids would have, you know, maybe just met the Empire and just got shut down. So this is more of a
trained as stormtroopers.
Exactly, the worst. So this is more of a galaxy to get lost in.
Yeah. It's the Filoni-verse, guys. You can call it the New Republic era all you want, but we know it's the Filoni-Favreau-verse. It's their world. We're just living in it.
I like how Jude Law calls it the 30-year gap between the films. So so that is the New Republic.
Yeah.
You could call it Filoni-verse. I'm calling it New Republic.
New Republic.
Yeah, we have to. We have to do it that way because I think it's necessary. I think calling it the Filoni-verse is putting too much pressure on Dave.
Oh,
you know,
did he call you? Is he wanting us to relieve the pressure a little bit?
Yeah, just, you know, you got to help a brother out.
Back off, Swank.
Jude Law, star of the show. We've talked about Jude. He's not on the promotional circuit now, but before the strike, he also talked to Entertainment Weekly. And he said what he could about his character, the character he plays in Star Wars Skeleton Crew.
He is someone the children meet on their journey, on their attempt to get home. He, like a lot of the world that they experience, is contradictory and at times a place of nurture and at other times a place of threat. What I love is because it's through their eyes, you know, at times there's a sort of goofy nature and a goofy relationship between the kids and the adults. And then at other times it's really quite dark and quite scary, which I guess is what the world probably looks like to an awful lot of 11-year-olds.
Yeah, it does vacillate. You know, when you're that age, it's like when you're in those preteen years, those tween years, when you start to go from being a little kid to starting to understand what's going on in the world around you. It is scary because you can very easily sort of tuck your head into your shell and retreat into childhood, and then you peek out and you see that it's a scary world. So yeah, it's an incredibly important period of development for.
Yeah, I still feel that actually myself. You know, sometimes I don't want to cross the street by myself. Sometimes I want someone to cut my steak for me.
Yeah.
So I get it. This show is. I'm going to be primed for this show.
Dude, it's ultimate like vulnerability. What they're saying with this show is these are kids at a really important time in their development, and yeah, the stakes are going to be really high in this. I'm digging what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I'm really curious how it's going to tie into the other New Republic stuff, though.
Yeah,
because he's not going to say it may or may not. A lot of times they can tiptoe around that and say, well, this happens in this part of the galaxy, and the Mandalorian happens in that part of the galaxy, so you wouldn't expect much crossover. That's how I would have said it. But he's like, you may or may not, which makes me think we're going to.
We're going to, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I decipher that. Oh, yeah, you're going to. But they talked to Jude Law a little bit more about just like what it means for him to be in Star Wars, because he's of that age. I don't know exactly how old Jude Law is, but he's definitely from a generation that grew up with Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the generation that played with the toys and the action figures and things like that. And so he talks about what it means for him to be in Star Wars.
Star Wars for me held a very particular place because, it was as much a part of my childhood as going to school. As far back as I remember having Star Wars in my life. It was the toys I played with. It was the toys I envied my friends had. If they, I remember one of them having an AT-AT walker, and I was like, I was never going to get given an AT. So I'd go over and play at his house so I could use the AT-AT walker. And probably the reason I started acting in the, running around a playground pretending to be Luke or Han or Chewbacca or Vader, was literally what I was playing, acting as a child. So it's law in my life, and so being in it is both kind of surreal and seems very second nature in some ways, familiar, and then also slightly out of body.
Yeah, I can imagine. Of course,
Jude is 50. He's 50 years old.
Okay, because I was looking back at his career, going back to, I think the movie that really put him on the map was The Talented Mr. Ripley with Matt Damon. And then he did the Sherlock Holmes films with Robert Downey. And most recently in the Fantastic Beasts movies, the Harry Potter kind of spin-offs. He was in those. Wow. Great, a little rom-com for the holiday season, The Holiday. He's in that with Jack Black. Mac laughs. Rom-coms. I
always just picture you there with like your fuzzy slippers on and a hot toddy watching your rom-com, your Spider-Man PJs on.
You got cameras in the house? What's going on? How do you know all of this?
That's why I smirk. Oh yeah, you are under heavy surveillance at all times. Just for my laughs. So. But Jude, so he's 50. He's part of the Star Wars generation, without question. And, he speaks from a place of love about the franchise. And he calls Chewbacca. I love that.
Chewbacca, yeah. That's the British in him.
Yeah, which ain't nothing wrong with that. I said I love it.
Yeah.
Chewbacca playing soccer. That's a Wookiee. That's a Wookiee football player. Chewbacca playing soccer. All right, enough. We can't delve into my weird thoughts anymore. Let's move on to young Ahsoka.
Yes, let's do that. Young Ahsoka. I don't know why her name is so hard for. You know what? It Ariana Greenblatt. God bless her. It sounds to me like a name that Barney Fife, an old girlfriend of Barney Fife's. You'd be telling Andy at the courthouse, well, Ange, when I dated Ariana Greenblatt back in Mount Pilot, it's like a name. It's like a made up name. It's a great name. But anyway, Ariana Greenblatt.
She sure was a looker, Barn. So we have a promo clip from Lucasfilm. That obviously, they shot probably while the season was being shot, so she's not violating any terms of the current strike that's going on. So this is older material, but it's new to us.
All right.
And it has just been released via Lucasfilm on YouTube, and it's Ariana Greenblatt talking about playing young Ahsoka.
I watched a ton of Clone Wars episodes. When I was getting ready for rehearsal and all of that, it was just always on in the background. The little plot twist in this episode is, yes, although I am 13, 17-year-old Ahsoka, Ahsoka is still Rosario's Ahsoka mentally. So I had to combine the characteristics and combine how Rosario talks. I visited Rosario on set, and I kind of just got to watch her work and observe how she would walk and talk and everything Ahsoka. I just soaked up all of her body language because I really, really, really wanted to do it right.
She has soaked it all up, all the body language.
And she did do it right.
She
definitely did it right. Great job.
She crossed her arms beautifully, just like Rosario.
Did she cross her arms?
Yeah, she did. So she says, Jim, 13 to 17. Which I thought was interesting. So clearly that was within the range of what we talked about, assumed that she was. And she's using those, that's clearly direction she was given probably by Dave Filoni. You're 13 to 17. The real actress is 16, by the way, just turned 16. So that just lends credence to some of what we were feeling about someone that age in war. Of course, we're seeing, unfortunately, war breaking out all over our real world right now, and it involving young people, very young people. So, when it was so easy when it was an animated character to, I don't know, you were desensitized a little bit. Animation, there's a lot of forgiveness. You're not thinking about age. Think about characters like the Flintstones, the Simpsons. You're not sitting there going, how old is Fred, But boy, when it's a live action, the age becomes very much in the forefront. And wow, that really hit us, Star Wars fans, very heavily, seeing that young age. And, when she has the scenes like she's mourning the deaths of the troopers and all of that, wow, that's just a kid. It's just a kid.
Mm-hmm. Now, Fred Flintstone, I would peg him at about 37 years old, but because he's living in prehistoric times, he's aging a little more rapidly than we do in the year 2023. So every day is rough for him. He's practically pushing his own car to work every day. So he's probably around 23 years old.
Right. Yeah, you look at those old photos, and your parents, your grandparents would grab those old black and white pictures and, this was your great Aunt Violet. And the woman looked like she was 80 years old. And she's like, she was just married there. She was all of 22. Hard living back then.
Yes. So, but Ariana Greenblatt, she certainly did do it right as young Ahsoka. And man, oh man, I hope they can find some sort of vehicle for her to return as this young Ahsoka character before she gets too old.
Yeah.
Now, come on. I don't want to see 65-year-old Ahsoka by herself, played by Ariana Greenblatt, in the far future, out on the planet Ahch-To being a bummer cut off from the Force. Drinking green milk from the teat of a space cow. I don't want to see that.
No.
So let's shoot more young Ahsoka stuff while she's still young.
Let's do it. Let's get that. I don't even care if they just do a made for Disney Plus movie. Let's get that live action Clone Wars with Hayden Christensen, Ariana, Ewan McGregor. Let's make it happen.
Something interesting, you brought up made for Disney Plus movie.
Mm-hmm.
We heard a couple weeks ago from the brother of Donald Glover, Stephen Glover, that the Lando series has shifted from series to film.
Mm-hmm.
There is speculation now that it is going to be a made for Disney Plus film.
Ooh. Not a theatrical
as opposed to a theatrical release.
See, I think that's a great idea.
I do too.
That's a perfect place to hit those ideas that don't necessarily, there's not enough meat on the bone for a full series.
Right.
It's not going to do the box office that they need to justify the theatrical release. Maybe outside of some big markets and press junkets and things. Outside of that, I think that's a great sweet spot to hit something like a Lando film. I love it.
I agree.
Love that.
I agree. I don't have it on any, respected source told me this or anything, but there's been talk. That's all I'm saying. There's been talk.
There's been talk.
Yes. So I found something kind of it's something of a interesting little thing. It's a curiosity, Jason. Let's open the curiosity box. The RFR curiosity box. Let's open it up and see what's inside.
Segment.
Yes, the RFR Curiosity Box. And suddenly I turn into like somebody from the land of Oz. All right, now.
That's a host of a different color.
It's the RFR Curiosity Box. See, you throw a little New York in there, too. But,
you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Brought to you by Sid and Marty Croft.
All right. Everyone settle down.
Seriously.
I found this clip. Some Yahoo somewhere used AI to duplicate Matt Lanter and Ashley Eckstein's voices, replicate them saying dialogue from Ahsoka, and dub it back into a clip from the show. So here is Matt Lanter and Ashley Eckstein, voices of Anakin and Ahsoka from the Clone Wars, doing voiceover dub, courtesy of AI, to this clip from Part 5 of Ahsoka Season 1.
I don't know this battle.
This was the siege of Mandalore. We had parted ways by now.
It looks intense.
It was.
You did well. You're a warrior now, as I trained you to be.
Is that all?
Ahsoka, within you will be everything I am. All the knowledge I possess. Just as I inherited knowledge from my master, and he from his. You're part of a legacy.
But my part of that legacy is one of death and war.
But you're more than that. Because I'm more than that.
You are more, Anakin. But more powerful and dangerous than anyone realized.
Is that what this is about?
If I am everything you are...
You've learned nothing.
Don't say that.
Back to the beginning.
Wow.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. It blows my mind that someone would have, without knowing Ashley, without knowing Matt, it just blows my mind that somebody would have that the capabilities. But you figure how many hours there are of Matt as Anakin and Ashley obviously as Ahsoka. So, I know the technology exists. If I didn't know better, I'd think that those two were in cahoots, make a little viral video together. I don't think it is them. But boy, it sure is interesting to watch that imagery with those familiar voices.
Yeah. Now, I think, the Ahsoka voice works a little bit better with the visual of Ariana Greenblatt and Ashley dubbing the voice. And that works a little bit better. I don't think the Matt Hayden mashup, because I'm seeing Hayden, so I want to hear Hayden,
Yeah,
but it's interesting. Like I said, it's a curiosity from the RFR Curiosity Box. Now, but the acting is weak. Matt and Ashley would bring so much more to the performance.
Yes, it's a little wooden. It's a little stiff.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. And so we know the real deal would do it much better. But like I said, it's a curiosity from the RFR Curiosity Box. Oh, what's of a different color? Oh, Swank fell over.
I love
so we talked about the fact that Lando thing the film might actually land on Disney Plus, but there's a bunch of other film projects out there that are still on uncertain ground. Let's just say uncertain ground. And one of them that comes up an awful lot is the Taika Waititi film. And I listen to a show called The Hot Mic with Jeff Snyder. He's an entertainment reporter out in LA. And he gets great scoops on the nerdy stuff. And he had a Taika Waititi film update.
We did.
That I think was kind of revealing. And so he provides some information on what's going on behind the curtain a little bit with the Taika film and determines whether it's alive or DOA.
Is it more likely than not that this movie does not happen? Probably.
Yeah.
So I'll go 51% it doesn't happen, 49% it does. But it's not dead. Taika has turned in, I think, multiple drafts at this point, and other writers as well have touched it. And Taika owes them another draft after the strike is over.
So he's still working on it.
Okay.
From what we understand via entertainment reporter Jeff Snyder.
God, this better be the greatest Star Wars movie in the history of man. This better be George Lucas level great. At the it's just so.
Hey man, listen, I don't care if we would still be waiting for the next Star Wars film at this point in the year 2023. If they just took the time to hone it into something great, as opposed to saying we have these release dates, you have to. The creative process doesn't respond that way with quality. Very few creatives can work under that sort of pressure and come up with a masterpiece. We want Star Wars to be masterpieces. And if it takes Taika hitting that keyboard over and over again and having other people come in and help him out, if it's a strong enough idea, they'll crack the code and present us with a quality movie. If not, then they're just going to have to say, hey, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We're between
patience.
Yes. So that's the latest we got from the Taika film.
Okay. Okay, well let's travel back in time a little bit and let's talk about Rogue One. Even the most ardent Disney Star Wars haters out there will concede that Rogue One is, Jimmy was talking about, masterpiece. I don't know if it's a masterpiece, but it's certainly a fantastic film. Some might even say it's the Wrath of Khan of the Disney era of Star Wars. It represents a high mark, a benchmark, and it also paved the way for what many fans feel is one of the strongest dramatic series coming out of Star Wars with Andor. But it wasn't always roses. I mean, we were here on Rebel Force Radio covering this film, covering the making of it. And the lead up was terrible. The news coming out of the production, all the leaks, was that it was just in complete disarray. It was a disaster. They were bringing in Tony Gilroy to save the production, and Gareth Edwards got completely sidelined. And we would talk, Jim, all the time about, man, where's the J.W. Rinsler definitive history of Rogue One? We want to know what went on behind the scenes, because it sounds salacious and it sounds very Hollywood and filled with all kinds of drama. And now we got Gareth Edwards, who is out promoting his latest film. What is the name of that movie?
The Creator.
The Creator. Yeah. So it's like
sci-fi
AI.
film.
Yeah, sci-fi film. It's kind of like Terminator, I think. In a sense, but it's post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear war, fallout, and mankind is in a war with AI. Funny, considering that the actors and the writers are in a war against AI.
Yeah.
But
what are we getting ourselves into here?
Yeah, a lot of people were holding this movie up as an example of, you know what? People just don't want new storytelling, because the reviews have been pretty nice. But the box office just wasn't there. And so some people are saying, you know what? If it's not part of a franchise or an already existing IP, people just don't want it. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping to see it as soon as it hits streaming or home video, because I am hungry for something new. And Gareth Edwards seems like the right kind of storyteller. He took 7 years to come back with a new film. And this is it, The Creator. Everything I've read has been pretty positive, but because he's been talking about this film, he's also talking about Rogue One.
Finally, breaking his silence. Now, there's a few things I want to say going into this. It was reported that Tony Gilroy had essentially taken over with the reshoots and rewrites as Rogue One was stumbling to its way to the finish line. But I had been involved with the media junkets surrounding Rogue One, and Gareth Edwards was present at those.
Yeah.
And he seemed very enthusiastic, and he seemed like he was taking great ownership of the film. So I thought, there's no way like he was sent home. It was obviously clear to me that this guy was working on the film all the way through post-production. But we would be seeing headlines. Tony Gilroy sidelines Gareth Edwards on Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but Gareth wasn't sent home or anything like that. So he has an opportunity here as he's talking to KCRW's The Business, and he discusses the Rogue One reporting on the internet and how you can't believe everything you read.
So the stuff that's out there on the internet about what happened on that film, like there's so much inaccuracy about the whole thing. And Tony came in and he did a lot of great work for sure, no doubt about it. But we all worked together till the entire last minute of that movie. Like the very last thing that we filmed in the pickup shoot was the Darth Vader corridor scene, which, I did all that stuff. And so it's always a team effort making a movie, especially a big giant movie like that. And someone who gets that opportunity to make a Star Wars film and then starts complaining about it, I don't think many people have much empathy for that kind of person. So I don't want to be them. It was a dream come true. I'm proud of the movie we all made.
There you hear it right from the horse's mouth, Gareth Edwards himself saying he worked on the film all the way to the end. So,
right. It was more collaborative. It wasn't, like you said, they didn't send him packing. Obviously, Gilroy was there. He was a factor, but that doesn't mean that Gareth wasn't still contributing greatly to the overall project. He says, it was a team effort.
Yeah, I was getting all those vibes. And I actually got to speak with him, and we had a glass of wine at Skywalker Ranch. Me, him, and Dave Myatt. And it was really cool, too, because we were surrounded by a bunch of wardrobe and props from Rogue One. And that was a fun time. And Gareth Edwards seems like a real good guy. And he has another claim to fame outside of actually being director of Rogue One. He inspired something that's actually in the film. And it makes all the sense in the world when you hear it, when you hear the origin of this planet in Rogue One is named after him.
When you're a kid and you dream about making a Star Wars film, one of the amazing things that could happen if you got lucky enough to do that would be to name characters or name something in the movie. Gary Whitta was writing the draft of the movie. He was really excited about it, but then after a while, after naming the 50th thing and trying to come up with a unique name, he was getting a little bit bored and wanted to share this problem. And he was like, Gareth, you got to start naming some stuff. And he was like, okay, you got to name the end planet. And I was like, okay, this is a big deal. I came out and I went and got a coffee. They write your name on the coffee and everything. And I must have said, when they asked my name, it's Gareth. And what they heard was Scarif. And so I just looked at the coffee cup and it said Scarif. And I just came back into Gary and I put it on the table and I went, it's called Scarif. And I feel like the barrister doesn't realize the influence they've had in a galaxy far, far away.
So was it the barista or was it Gareth Edwards? Well, you judge. You be the judge whether who really named it. But that is funny. We have a Starbucks near the day job, and it's anyone's guess what ends up on those cups as people place their orders. We've had some laughs over that for sure. Hey, you know what? Let's do a little rewind here. It wasn't that long ago that we had ILM alum Sean House on the program, and we just asked him his take on the story about this incredible find, this X-Wing fighter model that was discovered in nearly pristine order. And I'm not talking about a Kenner toy. I'm talking about the actual model, a shooting prop that was used on the making of the original Star Wars film, the Death Star Trench Run. And we heard that this was going up for auction, and Sean gave us some background on that and where it was from. Jim, I don't know if does this clip actually talk about that or just about his
you just play the clip.
Okay. All right.
This one's fully geared, it has lights and everything in it, and it's just an amazing example, and to have found it is just awesome. And it's going to go for insane amounts of money at auction when it
Yeah, I was seeing that they're expecting $400,000 and higher.
No, that's the opening.
Oh, that's
bid.
the opening bid. Oh, jeez.
It'll go for $1 million.
They're starting there.
Yeah.
Wow.
The talk amongst the collection community right now is that it's going to go for $2 to $3 million. $2
to $3 million. Well, we got an update here. It did sell. The small detailed model that was used for close-ups in A New Hope was found last year in the collection of the late miniature maker Greg. Is it Greg Jean, and it went for $3.1 million to a J. McInerney in Chicago.
No. We're not supposed to talk about that.
Oh, my God.
No. Come on now. Boy, I wonder who did buy that.
Wow. Dang.
That would be amazing.
$1 million.
Yes.
Wow.
Sean House, we spoke to him from 3210 Studios, the former ILM Kerner facility. And we got the unfortunate news that the lease of that building, that great building where ILM had made AT-ATs walk, Tauntauns run, and speeder bikes fly, and Jabba's sail barge blew up on the roof of that place, and Indiana Jones, so many other films, Star Trek films, many films had special effects contributions that were created in this building. You can see a lot of this building in the ILM documentary Light and Magic, which is available on Disney+. Lots of history in this place. And since ILM moved out about 15 years ago, 3210 Studios took over, and that was made up by a bunch of former ILM guys who wanted to continue doing practical effects. And so we got the word that the landlord is not going to renew the lease. They're going to gut the building, and it's going to be turned into whatever they're going to turn it into. Yeah. But it certainly isn't going to maintain the history it has. Sean was on with us seeking a last-ditch effort to save the place, but that never materialized. And I know a lot of things have already been moved out. A lot of industrial equipment that they use there to create the practical effects are all going up on the auction block, and creatives are moving out of there. Some creatives who have been in there all the way since the beginning. So it's unfortunate and sad, but it's just, as Joe Johnston said, they had a big party there a couple weeks ago, and Joe Johnston, the great director and concept artist and ILM veteran who worked on the Star Wars films, he said, hey, this is just a building. What really mattered was the people that populated the building and the contributions to film that they made. So it's unfortunate that place is going to go away. I was there over the weekend. I wanted to pop in and say goodbye to the place, but Sean and my schedules didn't sync up, unfortunately, and I was in and out of there so quickly. So, yeah. But, RIP 3210/ILM Kerner Optical, and it'll live on, in films forever. So that's that. May the force be with you.
Sean did give us a little bit of good news. If you're a fan of that documentary series on Disney+, IMDb might have you believe that was just the first season. Can't say any more, but we'll see what happens.
Chewie, get us out of here!
All right, that's going to wrap things up for us here on Rebel Force Radio for this week. Oh, the time just flies. It just flies when you're having fun like this. Don't forget, there's more Rebel Force Radio. If this was not enough for you, go over to patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Heard about it earlier in the program, weekly full show video. So if you want to see our faces as you hear our voices, here it is. All Access members get the full show video. Also, exclusive podcasts you can't find anywhere else. All available there on our Patreon page. Great community of Star Wars fans there. So check it out at rebelforceradio.com and click the Patreon banner on the right rail and you'll be right there. Also, if you want more Rebel Force Radio on video, including a bunch of archives going back many, many years, you can check us out on YouTube. Love to have you on our YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button. Please like the videos. Please comment on the videos. All that stuff tells the bots over there at YouTube that you like what we're doing, and that's very important. So that's Rebel Force Radio over on YouTube. You can follow us on our socials at Facebook and Instagram, including the official Rebel Force Radio Facebook group. You got to join by answering a few very simple questions just to prove you are indeed a Rebel Force Radio listener, and we'll let you in. Great group of folks over there. The website for all things and everything, Rebel Force Radio, rebelforceradio.com. But if you want to help us out here, the best way you can do it is to do exactly what you're doing right now. You're watching or you are listening to Rebel Force Radio. Better yet, go ahead and recommend us to your friends. You got that Star Wars fan at the day job, the neighbor, maybe you hang out backyard, you talk Star Wars. You say, hey, have you ever heard of Rebel Force Radio? Check it out. It's a great podcast. Love to have you make those recommendations. Love to have you subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher of choice. That makes sure that you get every episode of Rebel Force Radio and the after shows sent directly to you on your podcatcher of choice. Also, if you're able to leave a review, we love to have those reviews. We read them all. We just have one simple rule on leaving those reviews. Make them good. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Thanks again for being here and hanging out with us on RFR. Please do leave us that voicemail. We'd love to have it, 708-320-1737, and the email address show@rebelforceradio.com. So until then, for RFR, I'm Jason.
And I'm Jimmy Mack, Star Wars expert from MeTV's Collector's Call, which will be airing this Sunday, October 22nd at 5:30 p.m. Central, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on MeTV. Don't miss it.
MeTV becomes Mac TV. All right, we'll see you next time. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
Oh, yeah, you gotta do it again. And I'm Jimmy Mack, Star Wars expert from MeTV's Collector's Call.
I remember.
Watch.
We'll be with you, always.
Sunday, October 22nd, 5:30 p.m. Central on MeTV.
I'm not coming back until I fight Blake.